as well. Great. Good, I think that's all of us. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I know it's
6:01.
6:01, all right. Good evening, this is a meeting of the Plainfield Select Board. It's 6:01 p.m. and we're recording it, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, we started recording. My name is Jim Bolst, I'm the chair. With me is Tim Davis, a board member, and Riley Carlson, another board member. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I think there were a couple that got emailed around,
Okay.
removing the hazard tree removal thing.
The tree
That she was taking care of.
And then Carol Smith said she wasn't gonna make it here, but we still could talk about that topic a little bit, I suppose.
Gail said she wasn't gonna.
She wasn't gonna be able to be here, so the upcoming town office transition,
We'll leave it on and we can.
yeah.
And then she also wanted to remove one of the.
Chevalier
permits.
drilling of Highgate Springs, okay, take
Yeah.
that away, thanks. Any other changes?
I don't know how in depth we'll get on the budget.
Yeah,
Because
right, I agree.
I don't think Robin sent over any numbers.
Right, yeah, I haven't.
And I think it's mostly town office stuff that we have left.
Okay, so we may not do much with that, all
Yeah.
right. Any, so that's it for changes?
So
Okay, you're all set with those, are okay with you?
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear as any kind of update on the budget, because it did kind of like slip my mind almost with all the changes and stuff we've been talking about. Is that right before that we were working on that budget like line by line, then that just kind of stopped. So it would be nice to just,
But there's no one here that can do it tonight.
yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
it for future
well,
time.
maybe we'll at least chat about it a little bit when we
Right.
have that.
Was our stuff all done?
Well, why don't we talk about it when we get to that
Yeah.
item? All right, any other announcements?
Yes. Michael Billingsley, I have been receiving information from a number of areas about needing to prepare for the solar eclipse, which sounds like kind of, oh yeah, that'd be great, everybody can look at the solar eclipse. But in fact, there is an enormous, a prediction of an enormous number of newcomers appearing with no notice at all the towns that are within the eclipse path. And so on April 8th, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 1:30 in the afternoon, until about an hour and a half after that, we could have multiple thousands of people pulling off the road, climbing into fields, looking out at the sky, if it's a sunny day anyway. And so what emergency management wants us all to do, including individuals as well as the town, is to prepare for this, to prepare not just for the fact that there's an eclipse, and I'll be putting up stuff about how to safely view eclipse and stuff like that, but also how to be prepared for an onslaught of visitors. Part of that's an emergency management decision, but I'm also trying to find a group that would be able to actually host an eclipse event at the rec field so that it can be roughly organized instead of just scattered and people showing up everywhere. It may increase the number of people who come, but it will also decrease the number of potential accidents and emergency calls that we get. So I just want everybody to know, again, April 8th is the eclipse, and it will be in the afternoon, and we could have thousands of people descending on the town, because we're one of the closest towns that will see an eclipse to southern New England. And we're talking about 80,000 to 200,000 people driving from southern New England to the eclipse zone. So during the day, because all the rooms are booked already. So there you go.
The coverage I've heard is that the main focus where you're gonna be able to see the total eclipses in the St. Albans area, which is a ways away from here, so.
Well, it's going to be total here. In other words, anywhere that it's total is between here and Quebec.
I think
And I
Plainfield is
think-
kind of on the southern
Oh, it
edge
is.
of the
Okay,
damage
total
totality,
damage.
so
Okay.
we're one of the closest, but
All right,
most people
great.
will probably go a little farther
Yeah,
down.
right,
So they
okay,
have a longer time.
right, okay,
I think what they're trying to tell us, and I could quote them this, but it just uses the Fish concert as an example in Coventry, where it was announced and people said, oh, cool, and then 35,000 people showed up.
right,
And so what they want to make sure happens is that every town's emergencies crew, town government, town host services, everybody that might potentially be able to steer people out of trouble would be prepared for this event.
okay. Thanks, Michael. Okay, any other announcements? I mean, I want to make sure people understand about town meeting. That at this point, town meeting in Plainfield is not gonna happen on town meeting day, right?
Well,
That the in-person town.
we're
meeting.
having the Australian ballot, the election
Right,
ballot.
we're having that, we're having an Australian ballot, on town meeting day, so you need to come and vote.
And the school budget
The
is
school budget
happening
is
and
happening,
the
all of that.
president
The actual-
so.
Everything's happening except the actual in-person town meeting where we come to the Plainfield Opera House and meet together. That's probably gonna be rescheduled to another day.
It is going to be.
Going to be- Well, it's not gonna happen that day, and hopefully it will happen at a later date, we have to figure that out. But we haven't done,
Is there a timetable?
well, it has to be before July 1st. So sometime
So it
after
could be in
March,
June?
could be May or June, we haven't talked
Yeah.
about it.
I think at this point, it's the same situation as we had at the last couple of meetings where we don't have an auditor right now.
Right,
And we can't know for sure when the auditor's report will be done until we have an auditor, but we do have someone running who hopefully will begin on March 6th.
right, the idea is we need to have an auditor in order to to create the town report, which will be reviewed at the town meeting, right?
Yeah,
And so we can't have the town meeting till we have an auditor. The auditor will be elected on the traditional town meeting day when people can vote by Australian ballot for an auditor. Then the auditor can start, do their audit hopefully, and then we can pick a date and have a town meeting.
Or we could appoint any person who lives within the town right now, if somebody in the room wanted to be the
We could
auditor.
appoint an auditor.
We could get started right away.
If somebody wanted to do that, that would be great.
What is the auditor's job? Ask,
It's to review find the books of the town.
just numbers
Yeah,
and.
yeah, it's a
computers.
financial one, right?
I'll
okay.
think about it.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Charlie Taco. So I understand that the plan is to have the auditor elected in March.
Well, volunteer, so we don't have an auditor,
Okay.
it's volunteer, yeah,
Okay, but there is somebody running,
right,
and if that person is elected,
and then
that person can be part of town meeting?
they then have to do the audit. And then once they do
Okay.
the audit, then we can schedule a town meeting.
Am I not mistaken
Right.
that town meeting starts in March?
Right.
Because we're voting there.
Right, you're
So
voting,
town meeting is ongoing.
well,
will
we're
it be-
gonna have the Australian ballot, and then we're gonna schedule an in-person meeting for some time
Okay.
after that.
Will it be adjourned? Will a town meeting
It's
be
not
open?
it's not the same as last year where we met and then adjourned to a later date. We will be announcing when it will be, and then we'll have,
I'm still confused.
yeah,
The Australian ballot happening in March is part of town meeting,
yes, I guess.
okay?
yeah.
Yeah,
The town meeting has to start in March.
but we're gonna have, we can have the Australian ballot without having everybody show up at the office.
Does
I mean,
town meeting
yeah.
have to start? Will somebody have to open
I
town
don't think
meeting?
so.
I don't think so.
If somebody checked with,
Yeah, I'm not familiar with all the details, but I do know that Robin checked with the League of Cities and Towns if it was okay to do the election of officers on March 5th. And then the other articles later on, and they
Did she
said no
check
problem.
to see if an auditor is elected, that auditor can serve within town meeting to okay the books.
Well, if they couldn't, then the select board could just appoint them and they'd start them.
May I suggest that you make sure that that procedure is appropriate?
I would note also that, I was elected at the initial meeting, but I wasn't allowed to be seated for weeks afterward. So is this a different thing now? In other words, am I gonna take
Yeah, I
over?
forget why that happened.
Well, are Riley?
I know that the person
Are you
that's
gonna-
running for auditor is a local resident, so if there's some technicality where them being elected prevents them from being able to do their job, we are allowed to appoint them, so then they would be an appointed.
No, but my
official.
question is, what about other people who are running and being elected? Will I become, since I'm the only person running for that position as treasurer, town clerk, I take over on March 6th if I win?
I would
Yeah.
assume it's a similar situation where
Yeah.
if we have to technically appoint you at that point, we
There's
could
some-
also do that. if
Right.
there's a
So
need.
that, so
I think.
Robin is leaving on March 5th, is that
If
what I'm?
not, that or sooner, if not sooner, she's looking for jobs now.
I understand, but in other words,
Yeah, she's not running for reelection, her job ends on that day.
her job ends, but the town meeting doesn't end
Well,
until
yeah,
June.
unfortunately, yeah, I'm just remembering something now, what it says in the statute that allows us to change the date is that the officers elect who are serving continue to serve until we actually have the meeting.
Well, they continue to serve until a successor is chosen.
Yeah,
And I
okay,
think that this allows us to choose successors. Last year, I think we were confused about whether we could have the election on that day, and ultimately, I think Sasha pushed for completing the election at a later date.
I don't remember
But I
specifically.
think we could, last year, we could have had the election of officers on the original town meeting day.
Yeah,
Or we just
it would have been
chose to
nice
do-
if you guys would have informed me, because I'd assumed that it was gonna be like last year, and that I wouldn't start serving as town clerk and treasurer until, you know, you guys had figured out the problem, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
Well-
So you're stepping down and you're stepping
I'm
down.
gonna actually volunteer to keep serving as a write-in. If people write me in, I'll
Okay.
stick around
Yeah,
until we
we're-
settle all this.
I would
Or if
urge-
someone else comes, but
There's no one running for the select board on the
nobody,
ballot
nobody
right now.
around, so.
We need 2 people in order for the select board to function. My term isn't up, so I'll still be on. Tim has volunteered to stay on if people write his name in. So we need at least 10 people to write in his name, so that we'll have a quorum, so we can conduct business, otherwise we can't conduct business. Michael?
I'd like to interject a few points. The first is that someone has expressed publicly that they're going to be putting their name in for a select board position. So that was done over the weekend, and they said that they'd be going to the town clerk today to
Okay.
register. That may have happened.
They can't register.
Oh, there.
It's expired.
Yeah.
All right, so second point is that if you have a election on or of an auditor at a certain point in time, that doesn't mean that the auditing itself can't begin.
Right.
The auditor is needed to do an official signature at the end of the audit to certify the audit so that you can go forward.
I
and
spoke to
you-
them and they're not willing to start
Yeah.
working yet.
But if you have a volunteer who gets working on it, then it would
We
seem to
can
me
appoint them
that
right now.
there could be a teamwork thing. And the third point I needed to make, which has to do with the business of changing the term of the number of people on the select board. And also that some of the specifics about the town clerk need to go before the legislature because it's a change of charter. So if you say the town meeting could be as late as January, it actually would be nice
July.
if the town meeting occurred during this legislative session.
Just so you know, I'm actually gonna withdraw the charter change, and I'll explain
And
why.
the charter change isn't necessary to expand the select board to 5 members or
Right.
to change the clerk and treasurer.
Yeah, we'll
to
change the
one.
charter.
It's not necessary.
Okay, good to know.
Charlie?
If I'm not mistaken, the auditors to okay the town report have to have an open meeting. That's open to the public,
Yeah,
so it isn't a matter just of getting an auditor,
Right.
it's a matter of the auditors, plural.
like it can be one. We've had one auditor for several years.
Are you sure that's appropriate?
Yes,
You can check that out,
You stand up, asshole.
so there's no quorum for the auditor.
if we have multiple, then there's a quorum, but if there's one auditor, they still need to warn a meeting, but they can do it as an individual.
I'm glad we are aware of the situation that we face.
It looks like we have a couple hands up on Zoom.
Kathy and Bob Fancher, you want to go ahead and speak?
Yeah, a couple things, Jim. Can somebody send me some text for the website about when the town meeting is really gonna start, or if it's gonna be adjourned, or what the follow-up is going to be, so people understand what you guys were just debating?
We can send- Yeah, there was a. Yeah, we can
I'm sorry.
send,
I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
once we decide what we're doing, we'll send it. To put up on the website.
Thanks. And just for general information, the person who's running for auditor has told me that they're not prepared to start on the 6th, just so you guys know.
That's our best offer so far though, so until somebody officially offers to do it sooner. That's kind of what we have to wait for is the auditor and then the audit to be done,
Yeah.
right?
If it's about maths and I'm an accountant bookkeeper for a long time,
Okay, you wanna,
I'd be willing to volunteer
you wanna, please,
real quick. And, but I would like to know about, what the gentleman said about, having to do a open meeting with an auditor.
yeah.
And what that meant. I would like to know
Can you
what I
send
was
us, can you send the
getting
clerk an email, volunteering to be auditor? Can you send the clerk an email or send us an email? Our email addresses are on the webpage.
Yes.
Saying
I
that who
can.
you are, identifying who you are, what, and
Yeah.
that you're willing to volunteer to do this and what your qualifications. are.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Okay.
Then we can take it up after that. That'd be great.
Show that tonight. But
Yeah,
yes, I'll
yeah,
do it if it keeps the town
Okay, if you
going,
can, that'd be great.
absolutely.
Do we know your name?
Jennifer Harmon.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Oh,
Should have asked
we
for
know, Terry Young.
Yeah.
Bank's still there.
Yeah.
Barely.
Okay, are we done with
I have
that?
one more hand up.
Oh, yeah, Mo Lynch. You wanna go ahead?
Hi, thanks. I just had a few questions and the audio isn't great, so maybe I've just missed a little bit of this, but there's a lot, it seems like there's a lot floating around in terms of who can be appointed now, who could get themselves on the ballot, what the actual qualifications might be for the various elected positions. And I wonder if it would be possible to really get some of that summarized onto the website and perhaps some clear job specs with qualifications. As you know, it seems like that would be quite a barrier for someone perhaps volunteering themselves either into one of these temporary fill in the gap positions or actually holding a position. Is that, you know, looking through the website, I don't know, A, if I qualify, B, if I have the time, C, if that time is required business hours versus not. I know obviously that would be quite different in an auditor or a clerk, but is it possible to get that kind of written up more like actual job ads with specifics of what we're asking folks to do?
I would bet that the state site would have kind of descriptions of these elected positions, because they're really defined by state statute. And the only real requirement is that you need to be a Plainfield resident and at least 18 years old.
Registered voter.
A registered voter. Yeah,
I could say if you're eager to get people to do this, that it wouldn't be much trouble to copy the language from that to the town website and do it so that people don't have to go searching for it. If you want to encourage people, make it easy.
I think there's a notice on our website that says that we have what open positions we have. And so if people are interested, they can send an email to the clerk. Saying that they're interested in applying for those positions.
but it does make sense. We can review the front page
Yeah,
of the
we can take a
website
look
and
and
see
see.
if there's anything that makes sense to add.
Right,
I would wonder if we can find someone who was a former auditor who would give like just a brief blurb about what the job entails. It might be easier than someone trying to sort through statutes and legal definitions, you know, if it was just like, I did this. I had to go through these books, double check these numbers were right, and then sign my name to it, you know, I honestly don't know what the process is
yeah, so
either, so I'd be interested to hear from a former auditor. If that's available.
It does say on the website, there's a notice of vacancy for the select board. It also says this town is seeking 2 town auditors. And it tells you to contact the clerk's office for, and gives you an email address to ask. To ask about that, and we're also looking for a maintenance person.
Yeah, so it sounds like we could at least have some links to more concrete information.
If somebody was willing to volunteer to do that, I don't have the time to do that.
I have a link to all the state definitions, so I'll send it to
Actually-
Mr. Fancher.
I think to Bob Fancher, because Bob will do the actual update.
Right.
I'll send it
Yeah,
to Bob.
that'd be great, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's things saying like, if you have computer skills and are good with numbers, that is extremely broad. Lots of people can be good with numbers, but don't have financial skills in
Right.
terms of like professional financial skills. And so it's really I would presume a higher level of financial skill for something like an auditor, but maybe I'm wrong. And so I think some things like that are they're so vague that it would be difficult for, say, if I was like, well, maybe I can step up to fill this gap right now, but I don't want to be, in this position for 2 years. I guess I don't even know how long the term is. I
guess
don't know
I
that
would
description is
say
super
that
helpful.
you could step up to fill the role and then resign whenever you feel like it. Nobody could, like, no one's gonna arrest you.
There's a little bit of discrepancy between if the town appoints a formal auditor rather than being elected. I think the qualifications outside the town boundaries, if we appoint somebody, they have to have a real certification and all that. But if you're within town, I don't think there's any requirement. That's the way I understand it.
Okay.
It sounds like it'd be ideal.
Eric Blaisdell, Times Argus. I have a question about the warning for the March 5th meeting. I'm not aware that this select board ever approved the warning for that meeting. But it was signed on January 30th by the select board members. So is that warning legitimate if you didn't vote on it?
I think it was signed by a majority of the select board, so yes.
When did you take public action on it?
I don't know, we need to take public action on that.
You did the last 4 years. On 2020, with January 27th, you approved the warning. In 2021, it's February
I will
27th.
approve the warning.
Well, that hasn't been warned. You're taking action that hasn't been warned.
Well, we can amend the agenda and add it. We can add it to our next meeting.
Yeah, we can check and see if
We can check and
it
see if
needs
we
a
need to-
formal action.
Yeah, but it has to be done in public. I mean, it's on the website and we approved it. We all signed it, so we approved it in that sense. But you're right, there may be an actual requirement that it has to be approved at a public meeting. If that's the case, we'll have to fix that. Charlie?
If I'm not mistaken, it has to be approved at least 30 days before that public meeting.
Right, but we're not having, yeah, no.
And it gets back to this question that I started with. Is the March meeting town meeting or not? Has it been warned or not? The warning says Article 1. It seems to me that says that it's Article 1 of the town meeting.
I don't know if we're gonna have any further, more specific answer for you right now.
It's a question
To ask.
It is a good answer.
Yeah, we should look into that. You're right.
Totally rhetorical.
I do see what you're driving at though, and it kind of does sound like we're technically starting the meeting and then taking a very long adjournment for like 2 months and then finishing the meeting.
But a town meeting has rules about how it adjourns.
Yeah,
Okay,
One last question on this subject is whether or not, if you don't warn the town, vote on March 5th, 30 days in advance, does that delegitimize that vote?
let's look into.
And it was warned, it was posted, it's just the question that Eric has is whether we should have approved that in an open meeting before warning it. But we did post, the warning was posted 30 days in advance.
Okay.
All right, shall we move on in the agenda now?
Okay.
Are there any?
Public comment is next.
That's what we're taking. That's what started this. I asked for public comment. I think unless anybody had more public comment. I had hazard mitigation update.
Maggie Baird,
Hi, Maggie.
Chair of the Hazard Mitigation Committee, and we have a very exciting thing that we have been collaborating with Friends of the Winooski on to get a dam feasibility study.
Okay,
And what it will cover, it's paid for by a grant to look into whether or not there would be benefits to the town by having the Batchelder Dam removed or a portion of it removed. And what the ramifications would be. So it's pros and cons on both sides. It's not a study to go in like, yes, we're going to remove the dam. It's going in to see like would this help like the floodplain within the town of Plainfield, and what the impacts of that would be.
and that's the dam that's under
That
By the main street.
the Batchelder Dam is the one by the main street.
Right.
It is another thing to consider, and one of the other reasons why the Hazard Mitigation Committee is really interested in it is both flood resiliency and then also because of the age of the dam itself. It is 80 years is considered like a healthy dam age in the state of Vermont, and it's been built since the 1890s that we know of. there was previous dams there that burnt down at different points. So it's way past its lifetime, you know, and so it did get inspected in July after the floods, and it was considered stable. But we've seen you know, bank erosion on the Mill Creek side. So there's a lot of questions of like, would, you know, the dam and the water table being lowered help, you know, stop the erosion on that side, including all the way back, you know, past the cemetery. And so the Friends of the New Scheme, Michelle Braun is has found somebody that's going to fund this for us for a grant, and it'll look at both phosphorus levels, aquatic organism passage, yep. As well as like the pros and cons of the dam removal of a dam removal and what all the consequences of that. So we're really excited about that.
Sure.
And then the second part of that, I'm going to pass over to Jen Guarino, who's also a member of the Hazard Mitigation Committee.
And I'll just add a little bit that, so as Maggie is saying, there's no cost to the town because it will be grant funded and Michelle already has the grant money. And the town wouldn't need to play a role in the feasibility study. There would be an engineer hired and they just go in and do the work. So there's nothing, you know, no efforts being asked for from the town. I just wanted to put that up.
We just get the information and then
Yeah.
everybody gets to
We
decide.
decide whether, the town decides whether they want to go forward with taking it out or not, based on. the
Correct.
report.
Yeah, and it'll be a very long process. And there's multiple steps, but Michelle Braun is very enthusiastic at also helping us navigate this and finding money, so which
Months or years, or what do you mean?
possibly years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, the other thing to know is that there are several towns around here that are removing dams, you know, Cabot being one of them. So we have some models we can look at.
Okay.
So the other piece of this is that Michelle brought it to our attention that FEMA is funding a scoping project grant. And so the scoping project would be to look at our priority issues, you know, related to the July fund. And then, you know, she would help us hire an engineer, a river engineer, to determine what's going on and sort of, you know, advise the town on potential next steps based on this. Michelle herself can't apply for these funds. Municipalities have to apply. And she did send me the paperwork that Cabot just submitted, again, as a model for, you know, how one town has done this. So the town would have to apply for this grant, scoping grant. They put out a deadline of January 31st, but you know, they really want towns to put in proposals. So that deadline is really, she said it's not really in fact. But she would encourage us to do it sooner than later if we wanted to do it. And she could help with all this stuff. This is where the town would need to have input, because the town would submit the proposal. And there is a 25% match for the scoping grant. So there's some money that would potentially need to be involved there. She said that she does know sources of funding and could potentially help us think about that, please. What else can I tell you? Oh, and so if we apply for it and receive a scoping grant, that would put us on the list to be able to apply for an implementation grant to implement, you know, the recommendations that we choose to do. And the implementation grant is due in the fall.
Okay.
So this is kind of a 1-2 process, if you will, 1-2-step process.
So what do we have to do the application now?
Well, there's an application form,
Yeah.
right, and supporting documentation,
So that somebody from the town has to do that.
yes.
Do you know if anybody's working on that? It's volunteered to work on it? And who's
No.
the Michelle that we're talking about?
Michelle Braun is the executive director of Friends of the New Scheme.
Oh, okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, so she would be a big ally here and a partner. Who, in fact, she said she would help to develop that application, you
Okay,
know, in partnership with the town. I think she would do much of it.
okay,
Because she wants to see this progress, you know,
Great.
as director of Friends of the New Scheme.
Excuse me, which we could do with Michelle, the hazard mitigation
Okay.
committee, could
Yeah.
take
Work
the
with
brunt of
her.
it and then work
That'd be
with
great.
her on it and then
And bring it
give it
down.
to you guys
that'd be
for
great to
submission.
do that. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yes. Right.
Just so you know, I think that there's information from when they did the bridge work. There's information about where the back shoulder dam used to be,
Mm,
and so you should talk to the engineers from that area. Also, many years ago, Lori Bard, who was a resident of the town, wanted to put a power dam there.
Right.
And she has information. And the other thing is, I researched the ownership of the dam, as I think the town only owns half the dam, but I could be wrong about
Well, it's
that.
half the day, of course.
Yeah, because in Vermont, there are certain rivers where the landowner actually owns, the state owns the
Wow.
river, but the land under the river is actually belonged to the
Wow.
thing. So I would just research that. I could be wrong, but I remember, I thought it was.
Let me add also, Michael Billings again, also on the committee. That maybe what you're referring to, Graham, is the question about navigable river. That it's navigable from the dam upward. So the navigable portion of the river is possibly owned by the state, but downstream of the dam, where it's not navigable, the property owners meet in the middle of the dam of the riverbed. So it's possible the bottom half of the dam belongs to somebody else. And
Well, I'm guessing the feasibility study would pull all that information
Yep.
together, right?
yeah,
Yeah, so we learned a lot, I think, from the feasibility study, and again, there's no cost, no input required. You know, it feels like that's a gift to
Yeah.
us,
That's great. Thanks.
yeah. So the scoping grant would take some, you know, some input certainly. Michelle do a lot of it, we do a lot of it.
My understanding of the scoping study as well, or the scoping grant, is that basically we apply for it now, because then if we want the money, we have that money already, you know, we've already applied for it, and we've already either been approved or denied for it, so we can either move on to different kinds of funding sources if we decide to move forward with any project related to the feasibility study.
Well, and the other reality is, you know, we could decline it.
Mhm. Yeah, we can say no at any.
Question is, are we locked in at the 25%? Sounds like no.
Yeah, no, we can say no to the money
You
either.
can apply and we can receive it, and then at that point, we would have to make the decision whether we want to commit the 25% or not.
Right, I think this
Sounds
whole
great.
process is a learning process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
She did mention that she does have some ideas for ways of actually getting that 25% covered. So there's even, you know, depending on what the benefits are, you know, for the whatever we choose to sort of focus on is the benefit to any kind of modifications to the dam. There's different sources where we could get funding that would help contribute and cover that 25% or a portion of it. So
Okay.
like she's pretty amazing.
So we're all okay with them going forward and.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's anything we need to approve formally right now, but I think
Okay.
we're all in favor of going ahead with the study and also the scoping grant.
grant, yeah, so I need to.
If I could add, oh, sorry.
If.
Yeah, I guess we have a few hands.
Yeah, okay, Bob Atchison, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, as I spoke before in the select board meeting, I would like, I don't know who's speaking off camera because I can't see, but I would like you to know that I'm also working with a woman named Lindsay Ashworth as energy coordinator to see the feasibility of putting a small hydro plant in there. And it would use augers that allow for the passage of fish. It's not a turbine, large turbine that would chop fish up or anything like that. But obviously, the project that we're talking about also needs to know that the dam is healthy and useful and viable for that. We've did some
So-
exploring around and noted that there were 2 penstocks there at the dam. One probably was used for the granary part of the bachelor mill, and the other one was used for the sawmill part. So,
So, but Bob, as I understood, you guys are taking the dam out, right? Or not?
It sounds like the feasibility
Just
study.
trying to see what.
Benefit both projects.
Yeah.
And I guess you could fold that information that Bob was talking about into the study
I think
to
it's.
see if that's one of the options that might be useful. Okay.
I think so, yeah.
right.
Yeah, so
And one more thing that I'm trying to find, and I need to work with
okay,
the town office staff, is that there was supposedly done by an engineering firm back in the days of Lori Bard when she was looking at it. And I would like to come into the office sometime when I'm feeling a little better and see if we can dig out that study by the engineers. So that's about all I know about it. I checked with the engineer's office and they didn't have any copy of it there, so it may be vaporized off into somewhere that it's not gonna be found, but at least there's word that it did exist,
Okay,
so.
great,
And
thanks.
and who was the woman who was talking off to your right, Jim?
Oh, that's me, Jen. Right now.
Did you hear?
Your phone's breaking up. Can you?
Jen Guarini,
Yeah. I'm on the hazard.
the hazard, the people on the hazard mitigation committee. Were the
Okay.
ones that-
There.
You can contact any of us, our information's on the town website. We definitely know about the Lori Barge study, but we'd be happy to help either find that information. Or if you find the information, we'd love to receive it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to be some sharing here too, because it could be an asset, it could be a hazard, but we need to find out. So,
We have no predetermined, we just want the information to figure out where that points us, where we don't have like a predetermined, like we want to blow up the dam or anything.
Yeah,
yeah, I hope not.
We want the information so that we can make the best decision for the floodplain and flood resiliency within the town.
great.
And also just to
Right.
clarify, the feasibility study is gonna be studying the dam. Whereas the scoping project would fund projects that we determine are important to fund. Based on damage that was incurred after the July and December floods. So that could be any number of different projects, and we have a prioritized list that we've generated in the hazard mitigation committee. So we have a beginning list, a working list, if you will. And Michael continues to turn out more information about flood impacts around the town, so that the scoping project would be for us to determine priority flood impact situations in the town that we might want to address. That makes sense?
Yes, great,
Yeah,
thanks.
so these are two different things, but they're both being supported by Friends of Winooski.
Great.
I have a quick little update that
I
relates
got
to.
people with their hands up.
I'm sorry.
Kathy and Bob Fancher, do you want
Yeah,
to?
Yeah, just wanted to put in a different perspective perhaps than all the other people. I'm with the Plainfield Historical Society. We both are. And we discussed this at the last meeting. And I gotta tell you, we weren't overwhelmingly in favor of removing the dam for historical reasons. Just quickly, that a dam has been in this town for like over 300 years. And the dam itself is in a historic district, which is going to require certain approvals from people. So I guess going forward, we'd like to be, if not involved, advised of what the project leaders are doing. So we know when it's time to put our 2 cents worth in.
I think that is one of the things they would consider in the feasibility study. The historical and social impacts of leaving the dam, removing the dam.
Yeah, the study isn't deciding, the study's not deciding one way or the other, it's just giving us the information.
Study,
And the decision will be made later, you'll get a chance to speak on that at that time.
I'd like
That's
to
what we're
go,
asking, is a chance to put our 2 cents worth in when time comes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Bob, you should know that the feasibility study examines historical and aesthetic issues, so it will be coming to the Historical Society to get your opinion about that. In other words, your people are going to be resources to that study.
Okay, we'll be looking forward to that, Michael.
Okay, great. Okay, Mo Lynch, did you have anything to add, question or to add?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to comment that I really appreciate the Hazard Mitigation Committee for looking into this. There's so much momentum around dams in general in Vermont right now, both with changing water quality standards, updating the dam safety rule, potential legislation right now for loan funds for dam removals. So I really think it's great. And should it be determined that removal is an option and we can fund it, I would fully support that from an ecological and flood resiliency standpoint. So I really want to just voice some appreciation for going down this route. And Friends of Winooski knows what they're doing. There's a lot of great, like VNRC has been heavily involved in this statewide. So there's lots of people that help us and know the exact process to work us through that, which I think is great. So thanks.
Great. Okay, I think we're done with, yes.
My quick point was gonna be that, I forgot to add earlier that we didn't get, the first round for the funding for the generator that we need for, to have a town hall shelter. And the reason I bring that up now is because they've got a second round of funding we can apply for by February 1st, and I'm already finding out that Alice Merrill may not be available to help with that.
February 1st is passed.
I mean, excuse me, not February 1st, March 1st.
Okay.
And as she's pulling back somewhat, so it's gonna be harder to find people to write grants and work on grants and potentially the time for that. So it's just giving a heads up.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Are we done with the hazard
We
mitigation?
might have one more hand up.
Okay. Kathy or Bob, Fancher,
Or Stephen.
or Steve? Stephen?
Yeah, yes, I just asked that someone pay attention to the chat, please.
We might be able to, we may not be able to.
Looks like he did ask if feasibility study determines best action is to remove the dam. While simultaneously someone else wants to develop it for hydropower, who decides which occurs? I think that's a conversation that we would have after we have the feasibility study. We don't, we would have to, the select board would probably make the ultimate decision,
I
but.
would think.
Sure, we have some kind of public meeting about it before we decided to tear down the dam.
Yeah.
That's 300 years old.
You know,
So
Mike, did the-
I wouldn't,
Yeah, or it might go to the town vote if we call that.
yeah,
And to take this off your shoulders, just to get it in perspective, every time we've had a big decision like this, which involves expertise coming from a lot of different directions. Hazard Mitigation Committee has been trying to take it off your shoulders, the select board, and called those public meetings and prepared basically summaries of the public sentiment and giving you an opportunity to kind of wade into it without having to do every single thing.
Great,
sounds great.
yeah, that's good, thank you, appreciate that.
And again, this is gonna be a long
Yeah.
process.
Okay, all right. All right, stay tuned, everybody.
Yeah.
I think we're up to withdrawal petitions.
Yes,
Grant?
just to explain, I submitted 6 different petitions. One petition deals with expanding the select board from 3 members to 5. That I want to keep as is. I want to keep that petition for the vote. The other petitions, 5 petitions, regard having the town clerk treasurer positions appointed rather than elected. The process of going from elected to appointed in many respects is not settled law. And I consulted a number of attorneys, and I created a series of petitions. Riley has since given me a letter from an attorney, a municipal attorney of the league, who says that the only things that are necessary are the petitions regarding the appointment, rather than the 2 regarding residency and the town charter change. So in the interest of expediency and making things simple, I would withdraw the charter change and the residency petitions and submit appointing the town clerk petition and the town treasurer petition, having the select board appoint them. My understanding from the attorney's letter is that if we approve those 2, it takes care of everything, and the other ones are not necessarily necessary. You know, once again, this is not settled law, but I think that since he's the attorney at the league, we can go with his opinion on that, just to make things, just to expedite things, because it would avoid the charter change, which requires public hearings, just makes things simpler.
I think that'll be a lot clearer for voters.
Yeah, I think so as
All
well.
right, great,
I
thanks.
think it makes it more straightforward.
All right, that's helpful, yes.
Yeah.
No, but is this something that will come up when we have a town meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
The 3 petitions that he's
Okay.
not withdrawing will be
Yeah.
voted on at town meeting.
At town, the actual.
The
Fiscal
actual on the floor at town
Okay.
meeting.
And also I can have an informational session and talk about those, you know. I don't know if the new select board would want to do that, but I would be happy to organize that and explain what the reasoning is and why I think it would improve the functioning of the town.
Yeah, a couple of hands.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, Charlie.
Not to muddy the waters, but if it is an article at town meeting, the appropriate discussion is at town meeting.
Right.
Isn't it a meeting ahead of time that might be?
I think that as a citizen, though, he can have people around and tell them their point of view.
There's no prohibition about having an informational meeting.
Yeah, it wouldn't be
but
official.
not an
anyway.
official meeting from the select board.
Right,
It would be
okay, it wouldn't be
like a campaign
wouldn't be a
event.
select board.
You can follow, you can,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lobby.
We could have information meetings if we wanted to. I think. As long as we know.
If it's part of town meeting, the appropriate discussion happens at town meeting.
It will
And
have-
it's chaired by the
Now, we
moderator.
had a discussion about this last year too, about whether we should have,
Yeah.
whether we should have information meetings ahead of time or not, because then there's a lack of continuity between, not everybody gets exposed to all of the various positions, but it's better to have one with everybody, I guess was the thought. Okay, Eric.
Can you send me that letter from the VLCT and what was the reasoning behind not having to do the charter change? Because the charter says your officers have to be elected.
Oh, I can speak to that specifically. What and this gets a little bit in the weeds and a little bit legalistic. But essentially, the phrase that you're talking about regarding a town clerk if they move towns, they have to resign. That was the thing that bothered me. But that sentence falls under the elected officials part of the charter. So in other words, the lawyer is saying that because it doesn't fall under the appointed officials designation, it doesn't apply. Now, you know, that is, we're getting into legalese here. You know, because in the elected session, it says appointed officials. But according to the league's lawyer, that isn't actionable because it doesn't fall within the other section that talks about appointed officials.
I can send you what I sent to Graham, and it explains that his thing.
Yeah, that's not. What are we up to? So are we done discussing withdrawing the petitions then? Is that-
Yeah, unless there's any other questions. And the whole idea is we want the select board to be able to reach outside of the town and be able to have this as an appointed position. That's the purpose of what I'm trying to do.
Well, just one other point on that, and no disrespect to Brand, but he's made his point on where he stands on it pretty clear. Where should residents go if they just want to find out what the petition is about?
Is it posted somewhere? They're on, I think they're on the website, petitions.
I think they are.
I can provide, I talked about this on a local talk show, and I will provide a link. I made an audio recording of it, and I will be happy to host a meeting going through explaining what the ramifications of the change mean.
I can forward you the email with all of the petitions in it, including Brent's cover letter.
Right, no.
And it also attaches some of the statutes, the governing statutes, if you'd like to have that.
No, it's more of a question of people have come forward and saying, well, how do we find out what these petitions are? And Brand's saying, well, I'll tell you, but
Right.
Brand has a very
I thought they were on the
stated
website.
Well,
vested interest. So who do they go to who has an objective?
Ultimately, they will be discussed on the floor at town meeting. So that will give an opportunity for everyone to weigh in and explain what they're about and hopefully come to a common understanding.
I would hope, sorry,
Yeah.
I would hope as a citizen that I would be able to look into this before town meeting. Because I don't
Well,
wanna have like
It probably would.
20 minutes of
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
saying stuff.
And when I describe the changes, I will give you what the pros and cons are of the different issues.
Yes, you
Just-
will,
yeah.
but who's,
I think the
yeah,
petitions are
whatever,
on the
that's fine, I
website.
think you were on.
If the petitions aren't on the website, we'll make sure they get put on the website. People can go to the Plainfield town website to read the petitions. Is that the answer you're looking for?
Yeah. Wait, Charlie.
For now.
There's a long established tradition. If there is a petition that's an article to be voted on at town meeting, it is included in the warning.
Right.
30 days ahead of time, it's circulated. People can politic all they want about it, but the discussion of that article, voting on that article takes place at town meeting of the people that hear the arguments at that point and make decisions.
And not here, right?
Not here, not beforehand. The hope is that you go to meeting and you see what the issue is and you make an intelligent, educated decision, rather than maybe voting ahead of time by absentee ballot. No, this is on the floor, voted, discussed, and everyone that's there has a say.
You guys have a hand up on the screen.
Yeah, we'll get some more.
Oh.
Okay. You
You can't
I
see.
can confirm it was posted on 1/4/23 that the text of the petitions concerning Plainfield Town Clerk and Treasurer are on the front page of the website.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so there's been a.
And I would also,
January 4th.
since I pulled back, you know, 3 of the petitions, perhaps Bob can take those off because it might not be worth.
Can you send an email to us identifying the 3 that you want down?
Yes,
Yeah, great, so we don't get to take the wrong ones down or.
right,
Yeah.
okay, no problem.
And send it to Bob too, you know.
Yes, I'll send it to Bob.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Graham.
Yeah, is that the hand is down now?
Okay, Mo, there's-
Mo, somebody has their hand up?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to clarify, sorry, I couldn't catch who was speaking just now about discussion at town meeting day, but any ballot initiatives such as this would be eligible for absentee voting, correct?
Not necessarily.
We don't allow absentee voting on ballot measures.
One of the downsides, what Charlie was talking about are the upsides of having an in-person town meeting. One of the downsides is if you can't make it to town meeting, you don't get to participate. And so those are the trade-offs. And it's a difficult balance. So some things we vote on by Australian ballot, and some things we do at town meeting. And this is one of the things we would be doing at town meeting. Charlie?
Okay,
Yes, all public questions, those that are brought by petition, except for a few that are restricted by state statute, come under a on the floor discussion and vote.
And they'll be in the town, the annual report, printed in the annual report, and you can review them ahead of time. Just so you know what they are, but then the discussion will happen at town meeting.
Point of clarification. Also, I could add to this question that you're not allowed to have votes by Zoom either, even if there is a live video feed out to the world. People who are watching a meeting cannot vote on an article on the floor unless they're present in the room.
Right, okay,
Can I have one more hand on Zoom?
oh yeah, Stephen, go ahead.
oh, sorry.
Yes, question about withdrawing the other petitions. I don't know how many people have to sign a petition for it to be become an article to be discussed and voted in town meeting, but let's say 25 people have signed those petitions expecting these issues to be raised at town meeting. What gives the individual who circulated the petition, the authority to withdraw it, potentially against the will of all the people who signed it? I would suggest a cleaner way to do this would be to leave all of the petitions in place and just make a motion at town meeting to withdraw them or table them or whatever is the appropriate action, instead of just arbitrarily withdrawing them this way. One of the reasons I'm saying this is because I don't understand why the only solution proposed to the situation of the town clerk is to change it to an appointed position. Why can't we leave it elected and change it such that we can elect someone who's not a citizen of the town?
Well, Charlie, that is an argument. Well, first of all, to address your second question, there is an argument about having, being able to elect somebody from outside the town. There are compelling reasons not to do that. I don't want to bore everybody with that
But
discussion.
we don't want to talk about the merits of these petitions right now. So
Right,
in
but
answer to the first part,
answer to the question, my understanding is council has said the person who submits the petitions can withdraw them as long as they're not formally accepted by the select board yet. That was my understanding.
Yeah, I reached out to the League of Cities and Towns with that exact question. Still a little bit unsettled as far as law goes, since no one has really challenged it in court. But their recommendation is that the person who submitted the petitions can act as the agent for the signers and unilaterally withdraw them.
Okay, Charlie?
Not to be overly technical, but Robert's rules allows the maker of a motion to withdraw that.
Yeah,
So similar
right,
idea.
okay.
Yeah, well, the maker of a motion
Right.
has one person seconding, not 25 or 50 signatures or whatever. There's a difference.
I think I recall the petitions had exactly 50 signatures on them, so
About
if one,
55.
if a couple, he just can get a couple of his friends to say they want to remove their names, and that settles it for me. And quite frankly, I'd like to move on, because I feel like we're gonna talk about this a lot
No,
more.
I was moving done with it. Do we want to talk about discussing the upcoming town office transition since Carol's not here?
No, I mean, I recommended to Carol that she reach out to Bram with whatever concerns she might have.
Okay.
So I just recommend that Bram get in touch with Carol. That's-
Okay.
Yeah, okay, since you're the only person running, right?
Yeah.
You're likely to be elected.
I haven't heard of
No.
any written
Good
candidates.
enough.
Okay, appoint Cale Hope as lister.
Yeah, and this is, Gail Hope is the only person running for the open list
Right,
position.
right, yeah.
Sandy Ross recommended that we just appoint her now
Right.
to get it out of the way. It looks like Gail is on, do you want to say anything, Gail?
No, it's just Kaylee. That's the only thing.
Sorry, sorry.
No, it's okay. It happens all the time.
I move we appoint Kaylee Hope as lister.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
Appreciate your volunteering
Thank you.
Thank you.
and your patience too for waiting.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay. Discuss speeding on Barryville Road. Anybody?
This was an email we received from.
Yes, I live on Barry
Ah,
Road.
okay.
It's 25 miles per hour.
Right.
And people go
Right,
45,
right,
50
right.
up and down the road. We need to do something about that. It's gotten worse and worse over the years. And well, I think signage that explains to people that it is a major corridor for moose, deer, turkey, foxes, everything. They come through from the one forested area to the other, right across the road, always have. Just signs that, yeah, we're going slow because there are big animals crossing the road. And the other thing is, I would offer my driveway to have the sheriff sit there and give a couple of hefty speed limit tickets or speeding tickets, because when you're doing 50 in a 25, you lose your license for 30 days. And I do believe that, although I've got a heavy foot myself, but it only took a couple of tickets to tell me, no, you slow down for a reason. And I would like the sheriffs to come and stop it.
We've asked them to come, and they were coming for a while. I saw them not recently, but people have brought this up in the past, and we've asked them to come in the past, and they've come and they've sat on,
On Berry Hill Road?
Yeah, along Berry Hill Road at different times. And but not, they don't have the resources to really be there a lot.
Don't we have them on your?
Yeah, we can ask them again.
Might be good to remind people. I know the radar sign on Berry Hill Road was broken for a long time, but
It comes on and off.
it recently got repaired, so hopefully
It
that
could be moved
reminds
up
people.
the hill a bit,
Yeah.
And that way, because they have the radar sign right at the beginning of the actual downtown.
I think the big concern for Berry Hill Road is people speeding coming down into the village. So I don't know. If we
Yeah,
would
so
move the radar
raise
sign.
it up so that they are warned before it gets really steep. And the other option I have is the raise it from 25 to 30. Because
Raise the-
I drive it all the time and I truly believe that 25 is arduously slow on that hill. It's in the country.
No.
30 would be more reasonable and yet still safe.
It's more
Because
realistic
25
for
just
what
makes
people-
you think like, yeah, right.
I think it would be worth talking to the highway department
Yeah.
about putting up a couple extra signs. With a more advanced warning about Animal Crossing and the speed limit and the radar. And I think that would go a large way towards a longer term solution rather than having a cop there for one day. Gives 3 people tickets, nobody hears about it except for those 3 people.
No.
I think the signs anyway, well, we disagree on that then, but I think that we could talk about the signs.
No.
Yeah,
No.
true, that's probably.
I'm sorry, I
But
want.
you can call the police anytime you want, the select board doesn't have any
We don't have.
say over what the sheriffs do.
Well,
Doesn't the town have a contract
we do,
with
we
the
do,
sheriffs
we
that
can
they come
ask them.
so many times an hour?
Yeah.
Yes, please, I would like them up on Berry Hill Road rather than, I don't know, down in town where everybody has to go slow because.
Yeah,
really
no,
lot of-
no, they don't, they don't go slow, I live right downtown.
They build up
Yeah.
speed in the village to go up Berry Hill. They're going 50 by
Oh,
the time
that's
they
fine,
get to the
yes,
bottom.
I agree with, I was thinking of Main Street. I drive Main Street,
me
everybody
too.
goes slow on Main
No,
Street.
no,
They build up speed to go
Oh,
up
no.
Maple Hill.
no, really.
Well, then we need more sheriffs.
I think pretty much every road in town
Those little
people.
green turtle signs they have, kids go slow, I see that in places where they don't have.
I think anyone is welcome to put like a little yard sign reminding people to slow down on your property, I think. That could be something that you can do yourself in a short term way, but we will do what we can.
It's been a constant problem.
Yeah.
I think
all
it's
around
gotten
town.
worse over
Yeah, I
the
mean, it
past
has,
couple
yeah,
of
people-
years, that just once in a while, and people
Yeah,
remember,
we'll ask the
just
sheriff,
once in a while.
we'll ask the sheriff.
All right, well, thank you very
Yeah,
much
thanks.
for your time, and I wish you all a bunch of luck.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay,
Okay, discuss cost use of wheel lock for winter parking and enforcement.
so that was an idea that I had just spitballing, cause when the road crew was talking a lot about people parking in the village, but the more I think about it, I wouldn't wanna be involved in that personally.
No,
you
the
know?
problem with it is it doesn't remove the car, and that's what they.
But it would incentivize someone to do something about it.
The
'Cause
temporary.
they unless it's in the hands of the car.
Well, that's part of the problem.
It also add more work for the road crew
Right.
to do that.
Right.
That's-
Yeah, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I don't wanna do that.
So you're withdrawing?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Cause I'm not gonna physically do that to somebody in town myself, so I
Okay.
can't expect anyone else to do it.
and then the budget, I think we need to put that on to a future agenda when Robin's here.
Yeah,
We
well,
need her to circulate what she's got so far.
yeah, I'll ask her to circulate whatever she
Okay, that'd be
has.
great,
She was planning on doing that on Friday, but I guess she didn't get. to it.
Okay. So you'll open up to Robin, okay. Sign acknowledgement of programmatic requirements for the Brook Road Replacement Bridge Project. We don't have that here, do we?
Well, I mean, we've seen it via
Yeah, but
email,
We
but
need to authorize someone to sign it.
yeah,
On
we
behalf
have
of
to
that.
authorize you to sign.
That's
it.
fine, I'm happy to sign it, just want to make a motion.
I move that we authorize Jim Bowles to sign the acknowledgement of programmatic requirements for the Brook Road Replacement Bridge Project.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Alright,
Okay, great.
I had a question, which I raised, and no, I didn't hear back from you, Tim, if you had ICS certification.
I am.
We don't need it though, didn't you see the email I forwarded you, I think this morning, that somebody from the state said we don't need that certification.
But we
he
have
has
it, we have it anyway, so if we do end up needing it, we have it, everything's cool. Yeah,
Yeah, I lost a couple of days.
Yeah, that's hilarious,
So
yeah.
I couldn't get back and
Yeah,
check.
that's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's an email from me to you with the, forwarding you an email from somebody else from the state saying we don't need it.
It is a confusing change, but it's covered.
Okay, good. I just didn't want to have.
Oh, we got the right sign, we want to make sure that that's.
It's
Either way.
not.
Okay, great, never mind.
Either way, it's totally.
I'll sign it. Great. Approval of warrants and fee permits, so can I get a motion about accounts payable?
I move we approve the accounts payable dated 1/25.
All in favor?
I
Aye. Payrolls,
move we approve the payrolls dated 1/25, 1/31, and 2/8.
all in 2024?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Fleet permits,
I move we approve the fleet permits for GW Tactical Construction of Jeffersonville, Weston Bulk Sales of Essex Junction, and White Seating of Plainfield.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and approval of draft minutes of January 22nd,
I move we approve.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. And then we have a motion to adjourn. Are we up to that?
Excuse me,
Wait, got it, yeah.
No, wait, Bob, you got something, Bob?
excuse me, yeah. I've had my hand up for a while, but I wanted to comment on Berry Hill Road.
Yeah,
A number of years ago, we did a pedestrian and safety study in the town of Plainfield. And one of the things that came out for that corner was that you could add a stop sign at the bottom of the hill so that people don't start their run at it from, say, Mill Street Park, and by the time they hit the upgrade, they're going 30 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour. The other was of a possibility of a mini roundabout at the junction of Brook Road and Berry Hill, Mill Street, whatever it is. I think they're all defined at that corner. And it was going to be a mini roundabout that was probably about 6 feet in diameter. I put together a design which was comprised of a old tractor tire that could have planning around it and a orange and white barrel in the middle of it, just to try it as a feasibility thing. And of course, remove it in winter so the plows can get through there and all that stuff. But it was made of rubber and wouldn't have been harmful. The other place that a stop sign was recommended is over on Main Street, because the same thing happens there. People wind up back by Positive Pie, so that by the time they hit the intersection of Creamery and Main in front of the firehouse, they're already going 40 miles an hour. And anytime you talk about pedestrian safety, 20 miles an hour, people pretty much survive, although if they come in contact with a vehicle and, you know, it's a minor injury. 30, it's questionable. 40, it's fatality. So don't set people up to go 30 miles an hour when it's easy for them to get wound up and go 40 miles an hour. You just never know.
Yeah.
I
it
didn't
make sense to
I
me.
didn't follow why we want to raise the speed limit when your complaint was people are going too fast. People tend to drive 10 miles over, so whatever speed.
My
you set
fault.
in that, they're gonna go that much higher. Hey,
Yeah.
Bob, can you send us an email with those suggestions, those 2 suggestions about the stop sign and the roundabout?
Sure.
Whatever other suggestions you have, that would be helpful. You were hard to hear.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Motions now. Any more hands on Stephen? Stephen Prime, you have anything? Yes, not.
No.
Yes, he not.
Yes, I do. I had my mic muted. I would ask you to please not add more stop signs. There's already so many of them around town. It's like they sprung up like burdock. And as was indicated, it is especially in winter when traction is hard to come by. Getting a run on a hill, especially Berry Hill, is almost necessary to get up it. And as noted, they don't generally pay too much attention to speeding unless it exceeds 10 miles over the limit. So people take liberty with that when they need it in order to get up the hill. And as someone who lives far beyond up that hill, I would very much appreciate it if I didn't have to start from a standstill at the bottom because someone put a stop sign there. Thank you.
All right, thanks, good point. And I also suspect that people who are watching cars driving by when they're standing in their yard or their driveway think the car is going faster than it actually is. It feels like that.
I can tell you, there are, it's really noticeable when you're in the
Yeah,
village.
there's
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
speeding.
Oh, yeah.
That's a tight spot.
And the stop signs coming into the village have made a huge difference,
Yeah.
huge. The one at the bottom, oh yeah,
Okay.
bottom of Maple Hill, that one there,
Yeah,
really helps.
all right, Annie Cochran, you want to add anything?
Hi, yes, I helped work on the traffic study that did some of the work to get the speed limit lowered to 25. And I agree with Paula, the stop signs have really worked really well. And we have one at the bottom of Brook Road, and then we have one at the bottom of Main Street. And they decided not to put a stop sign at the bottom of Mill Street there because they felt like that was more of a main thoroughfare. And and Bob is correct that they talked about a mini roundabout, but really what we thought would be really helpful there was a speed table. So it would be like a raised crosswalk over to Recfield Road. Because there's a lot of kids in the village that walk over to Recfield. And so it was kind of thought that instead of a stop sign, to have that speed table there for a raised crosswalk would do the same thing on that street that the stop signs do on Brook Road and on Main Street. And thanks for taking my comment.
Thanks. And Mo Lynch, you have anything else to add?
Yeah, well, and I guess maybe that comment just before me was most relevant. It seems like this is not necessarily the forum in which we might get the best answers. So perhaps talking to the town highway department, VTrans, if it's at all rated, they might still be able to provide assistance, or looking back at however recently that study was done might be the best way to move forward with what, you know, the best available science is for how to do kind of speed control like this. So I think it's something worth looking into, but it seems like maybe I don't want to speak to the qualifications perhaps of anyone in the room, but it seems like making sure we have a well-qualified working group is really the best way forward.
Okay, thank you. All right, I don't see any hands up. Oh, Stephen, you have your hand up again?
Yes, what's involved in getting one of those cameras that takes a snapshot of people who are violating the speed limit or running red lights or stop signs or whatever?
I don't know if we have that answer.
Have a listen to the first one.
Right,
Yeah, I'm not personally that interested in photographs.
Oh, no, sorry.
It sounds like we might have a longer conversation.
Yeah, maybe a different meeting.
About what our options are, and maybe that's one thing we look into, but.
Okay, and one thing I added to the chat earlier that nobody read is regarding the positions that are open in town. They were talking about posting the entire position on the town website or whatever. You could just post the links to the statute title and section, and then people could just go to those links and read them.
Good idea. Thank you.
All right.
We're trying to wind down. Mo, you have something to add?
I do, yeah, sorry. Yeah, just to my point, I think statute alone is not really the most accessible way for people to understand what a job entails, or, you know, simple things like, can this be done? Can this be done entirely outside of business hours is something that would really affect a lot of people's ability to participate in any form of town government. So statute is great, but it is not a accessible form of information for a lot of people.
Right.
So that's a start, and it would be easy to put those links on, but I would encourage a bit more.
Plain speech about what the job entails.
Yeah.
I'm doing that. I move we adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
I.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Send the 15.
Have a good evening, guys.
I got, thanks, I'm hungry.